switched some things. When Obama was running for president, all the things he was criticizing Bush for gave people hope that he meant what he said. But I noticed he, as a senator, voted for the Patriot Act, which was to me a sign that that man was lying. He was just posturing. And if you remember last election cycle, presidential election cycle, all the things he said about Hillary having corporations being bought and sold by the corporations, it's the same things that are being said about her now. Obama ran on this hope and change, but I think he wasn't sincere. Now, the other thing I was trying to get at is why do we have politicians that don't enforce the laws when something goes bad? I meant to say it's because they're corrupt. Why are they corrupt? They didn't fall out of the sky like Carlin says. They didn't just poof out of Magic Dragon's asshole. No, what they did is they were elected by people, you and me. So what I meant to say is, as you can see, that in this 2016 election, people are willing to overlook corruption. Now, in my previous video, I was describing how all that corruption led to the deregulation of all these laws and acts that were put in place after the Depression to prevent another crisis. And so what has happened is, since the people who were responsible were not held accountable, what are they going to do again? Here's what they're going to do. They're going to keep doing that very thing that created that disaster all over again. So it isn't because of lack of regulation or because there's too much regulation. It's just not being enforced. You got people who are in office not concerned about doing what's responsible or right, but what their financial overlords want them to do. Who, unfortunately, the financial overlords that have all this influence behind closed doors on both sides of the aisles are very short-sighted, which is why we have all these problems. So what happened in the crisis, what happens in every economic crisis, every kind of there's a recession or something, so never mind that. The thing I was going to say is, so the reason why we got corrupt politicians is we got people on both sides who just don't want to look and clean their own houses up. They don't want to do that. They don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to take the effort. They care more about their child molester. If, let's say, we well, we do have two crooks right now. But let's say we have a serial killer on the Democratic side and Republican serial killer on the Republican side. The Republicans would rather have their serial killer in office over the Democratic serial killer. And the Democrats would rather have their own serial killer in office over a Republican. The reason why the economic crisis happened, this is my take on it, is because people were prioritizing the wrong thing in their candidates. They weren't thinking of the whole picture. They were thinking about their tribe. And they will do everything they can to erase from their heads that the person that is running for office for them is a crook and is going to abuse both the left and the right, and most likely going to abuse their own member of the party that voted for them. Why does this happen? Well, there's this book called True Believer by Eric Hoffer. There were some other books, I think, in Praise of Doubt that went into this. What has happened is these books led onto a journey where I started reading about mind control. There's Dr. Lifton's thought reform, where he talks about how in North Korea or in China, people that were running from the Cultural Revolution in China during the 50s would tell stories about how they were treated in order to change their minds on various things, so they would convert to communism, so they would be one of the herd. That's one of the things. I read propaganda. I read about psychological abuse. I read all that. And also, I've noticed over time the people who have the wrong sense of priorities. I've met these people face to face, and they're all of creeds, and all genders, all races, don't matter. These are the type of people where you try to reason with them, say, hey, it wouldn't be better to do it this way or that way? I'm sure you've met these people. And they don't want to listen. The conclusion I came with, based on these observations with these people, and based on all this reading, is that the reason why people look the other way when it comes to looking for, when it comes to leaders and not hold them accountable, is because they are emotionally screwed up. They are insane, both left and right. I know this may insult some people, but this is the conclusion. If you look onto the right, and if you read Eric Hoffer, you will have people who are failures in life. You look on the left, you will have people who are frustrated and are failures in life. There is something, no matter what they have, what kind of successes they have, there's a defect or an emotional need not being met. So, the conclusion I came to is the reason why we have these problems, these bad politicians, is we got bad voters. The reason why I got bad voters is we got people who are the most fanatic and hard driving, are the ones who were either started off emotionally unstable or ended up that way. So it's not a matter of the left and right anymore. It's a matter of emotionally, psychologically sound people who are versus the people who are not. It's versus the sane versus the insane. It is nothing more than that.